All right, 7 o'clock, might as well get going. Welcome to the April 2021 virtual meeting of the Public Safety Committee. Many of you have joined this meeting via the meeting link that was sent to you by email. Please help to keep background noise to a minimum by muting your mic until you are ready to speak to the meeting. As a participant, if you'd like to speak during any part of the meeting, you can click on raise hand next to your name under reactions is where it was moved to. Is raise hand button. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be recognized by the chair. You can unmute your mic. Please state your name prior to speaking. As a member of the general public, you have joined the meeting by calling in. Your microphone is muted until joining the meeting. You may unmute your mic using keystroke *6. When you are ready to speak, when you would like to raise your hand to speak, please press *9 to raise your hand and then *9 again to lower your hand. Please state your name and address prior to speaking, and please indicate when you are done speaking, and the chairman will move on. Please be advised that the audio, video, and chat history of this meeting is being recorded and that the media may be present for all or part of the meeting. At this time, please mute all background devices and we will begin. Thank you. I just got to get a few people here admitted. There we go. Okay. Call to order the April 2020 Public Safety Meeting. It is 7:02 p.m. and all three members, Pro Tem Betancourt, Alderman Nash, and myself, Alderman DeLucia, are present. Before we move on,
you said 2020, it's 2021.
Okay.
I was gonna say something, but you know, hey.
Yeah, so my daughter beat you to correcting me because it's her favorite thing.
Thank you, Grace.
April 2021. Okay, and she got shut. You know, she got the go away. But before we move on to item number 2, I would just like to welcome Scott and Bill to the committee. Scott Eggert is going to be filling in for Chief Spalding out in Occam, and Bill Ivory's is just the newly minted and elected chief of the Yannick Engine Company. So welcome to you both.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now moving on to item number 2, adoption of previous meeting minutes. The committee was sent the draft via email. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the minutes. So moved by Alderman Nash.
I will second Mark Betancourt.
Seconded by Mark Betancourt. Thank you very much. Any comments, additions, deletions, corrections at this time? All right, hearing and seeing none. Again, we're still on roll call. So Pro Tem Betancourt.
Yes.
Alderman Nash. Yes, to adopt. Thank you. And the chair votes yes, so unanimously adopted. Thank you very much. Item number 3 on our agenda tonight is citizen comment. Are there any citizens present? We have a few call-in participants. Are there any citizens that would like to make a comment or speak to the committee tonight? Second time, are there any citizens that would like to comment or speak to the committee tonight? Third and final time, are there any citizens that would like to make a comment or speak to the committee tonight?
Stacy's got her hand up.
Oh, I did not see that. Thank you. Stacy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Stacy Gould, 1 Meadow Lane, Norwich. I'd just like to take this opportunity. I think we would be remiss if we didn't thank former Chief Blanchard for 20 years of dedicated service to the Yannick Fire Engine Company. And again, congratulate Bill Ibers on his newly elected position, and also to wish Carol Spalding only good health and give Scott our full support with anything he needs as he's filling in while Carol gets better. So welcome to public safety, and know that anything that you need, please reach out to the Public Safety Committee or the council. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Stacy. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment or speak to the committee tonight? Okay, that was our third and final time, so thank you, Stacy, and we'll move on to our next item. Item number 4. We call it old business. It really should be unfinished business. But item A is a COVID-19 update. And with that, I will turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Joe. Good evening. Basically, we have pretty good news. We're on a plateau of infection. We've been hovering around 20 to 25 incidents per 100,000 for about 3 or 4 weeks now, and which was up. Our low point was 14 per 100,000. So we've gotten into the red zone a little bit again, as they call it, for us. But it hasn't gone up, and we're post holiday by a few weeks now, and it hasn't gone up. So we're crossing our fingers and thinking that maybe we'll be leveling off. As you know, we now have meetings at council chambers. We still don't have meetings for all individual boards and commissions, because if they can't meet at the council chambers, they're not, the rooms where they meet are not large enough to do the social distancing. So we haven't yet expanded it to all boards and commissions. So they're still in a hybrid or remote stage. We're hoping to have City Hall return to somewhat normal in May, probably first or second week of May. Everybody can get shots now who wants to get an immunization. So we're thinking that our city staff will be fully inoculated sometime in May, and that would be a good time to open. So we'll play that one a little bit close and see what happens. But the goal is to open in May, and we're slowly expanding our programs, recreation. We're having a regular Memorial Day outside, things like that. So we're getting slowly back to normal, which is a positive thing. I'll take any questions you might have, Joe, or anybody else.
Yeah, I'll open it up to the committee members. Any questions for the city manager? None from the committee members. Any specific COVID related issues in the departments? We'll hear those under department reports.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that needs to be addressed, then feel free to jump in at that time. So thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Moving on to item B, fire service monthly report process. So after some really good feedback and discussion via email regarding the move towards having the more routine data items be reported using emergency reporting for this is specific for the fire service. I did receive all of the emergency reporting reports from all 6 departments. I thank you for that very much. I think that's going to keep our meetings focused on, as I said, highlights, challenges, items that need to be on our horizon, and the more routine data stuff will be in those reports. I ask you, I'm going to ask you for a favor, the 6 chiefs, and this is really to help out Catherine, our recording secretary, and the committee members. When you name your PDFs, would you please include your department name in that file name? All right. That would be a big help. I took care of the ones for March where I went in and renamed them by department, and I will send those to the committee members and to the recording secretary. But in the future, if you could do that for me, that would be a big help to us all. I appreciate that very much. And the PDFs came through absolutely no problem. So it looks like we've got ourselves the beginnings of a good system. I don't have anything else on that. Committee members on that specific topic, anything you would like to add? Okay.
No, not at this point, anyway. I mean, there'll be some things in the future, obviously, but
Yeah. And you'll see the first batch. As a matter of fact, I will send those out tonight at the end of this meeting. So you'll see the first batch, and conversations can go from there. So perfect. So then moving on to item 5 on our agenda, new business. So item A is.
Joe, Chief Montoya has his hand raised, sorry.
Oh, thank you, because you know how it is trying to look in 3 directions at the same time. Chief Montoya, please go right ahead.
Thank you, Stacy. I just had a question regarding the reports, and more a question for the chiefs. If when they submit them, we can include each other on our reports, it would just save me some transcribing as from the end. So thank you.
Yeah,
That's a thumbs up. So appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Absolutely. Thank you very much for that. And by the nodding of heads, it appears that we have consensus on that. So that's great. All right, so now moving on to item number 5, new business. Actually, item A, city manager's proposed budget feedback. This was not an item that I asked the city manager for a report. We have all seen the city manager's proposed budget. The intention of this agenda item for us tonight is for us, the 3 members of this committee, to hear from you beyond anything beyond what you shared with us during your hearing. So, for any topic under public safety that has to do with the proposed budget, I'll open the floor to any of the committee members or stakeholders that want to provide us with some feedback. Okay, yeah, it's
I need a MIDI file for crickets.
yeah, right, exactly right. Okay. Bill,
Just real- yeah.
I see, yeah, go right
No,
ahead. Go right ahead.
Just real quick, I've gone over the budget myself. I do want to meet with the officers and just double check it with them. I'm meeting with them on Sunday morning. I can give you everyone a better idea early next week.
Well, that's fine. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Hey, Joe,
Yes, Tim.
I know this was a last minute thing, but at least an hour's head up would have been better. It would have been better than get blindsided in case we had anything to prepare for you.
Well, this has been on the agenda since I published it.
I might have missed it on the agenda. I didn't see it.
All right, so anyone else like?
I mean, we don't do, we're obviously not passing the budget till the first week of June at least. So, I mean, there's some time if there are any other issues or whatever that can be brought before us. So, and we will have another meeting between now and then too, besides. So, but at any point, there are issues, then by all means.
Well, and to that point, Mark, I will leave this on our agenda so that we can at least have the opportunity to talk about it at the May meeting as well. Okay, so without minus anything else on that item, we'll move on to item B, department and agency updates. I'll go down the list. I do have a report from American Ambulance sent to me by email because Rob anticipated that he would not be able to be here tonight. And so I can take a quick peek at that during the meeting here, but also I will send that to the recording secretary and to the committee members. But starting off with top of the list, Norwich Public Utilities.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Alderman. We have moved to phase 2 of our return to work plan with all of our operations personnel back to normal operations. Our office staff remain primarily working from home. Our customer service center is open for appointments, and our leadership team continues to meet daily and monitor the ongoing situation. We did recently have an uptick in COVID cases among our staff. There was no impact to our operations or our emergency response, and it appears at this point we are through that uptick and on the downswing, which is a good thing. Our PPE levels remain sufficient, and our employees continue to receive their vaccinations. Currently, both our reservoirs are at full pond. But I do want to make sure everybody knows that back in March, we experienced a break in the 8-inch main that feeds the east side from 8th Street. We have been working with Chief Montoya on this. The main right now remains shut down as we work with the railroad to schedule a repair. Unfortunately, the break is right underneath the railroad tracks, so we need the railroad permission to actually make the repair. We are hoping to have the repair complete by the end of May. The 8-inch main that feeds the east side from Route 2 is still online. What this means right now is that water pressure on the east side remains the same as before the break, but we do anticipate there being a volume problem during emergencies. We are conducting flow testing right now, but at the moment, I don't have the results from that. But I'm expecting that to be about another week or so. And I believe Chief Montoya has set up a contingency plan for that area for the time being. Pending your questions, that's all I have.
I don't have any questions for you, Eric. The other members of the committee, any questions? Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, what railroad is it?
It's
P&W?
I don't know. It's changed ownership a couple of times. I can't actually remember the name of the ownership company now, but they're out of Florida, believe it or not. Yeah.
I thought
Genesee,
railroads are
Wyoming.
problematic. Is it?
Genesee, Wyoming purchased Providence and Worcester, and they already owned the Rail America, which was Central Vermont. It's owned by one company now. That's the last word I had.
No, thank you,
Sorry-
Mr. Mayor.
sorry to
That
cut in.
is no. I appreciate that. I couldn't remember the name of the company. That is correct. It is Genesee, Wyoming, and their operations team that we deal with is out of Florida.
No. Railroads are problematic sometimes, so there's no way to hold their feet to the fire.
No, unfortunately not.
All right. Thank you very much for that report, Eric. American Ambulance is usually our second. As I said, Rob is not here tonight. I'll read what he sent to me. He said in March 2021, American Ambulance responded to 598 emergencies. 224 of those were advanced life-saving, 374 basic life-saving, which is down significantly from historical March numbers. Staff continues to receive vaccinations, and as of this report, nearly 80 providers who are fully vaccinated. They're currently engaging in community care team and SMHA, trying to connect several residents with appropriate local services to meet their needs. And they have no staff currently out of work due to COVID-19. And as I said, I will forward this to a recording secretary to be included in the minutes. Moving on from there, Norwich Police.
Good evening, Chairman DeLucia. Can you hear me?
Yes, Pat, go right ahead.
Report for the month, one COVID case, unknown cause, whether work-related or family-related. The employee involved back to work, nothing since. Brings our total to 9 since the pandemic. We continue to assist in food giveaways and vaccine sites up at the senior center, and in planning for the FEMA trailer that's coming in May. Library remains closed, and we remain so probably until City Hall opens up. We'll try to open up in a unified front, but we are expediting our services to citizens. Calls for service are at a normal rate, although there's no major calls or incidents this month to report. We have 3 new officers who just began field training, so if you see officers doubled up, that's the reason why. 2 remain in the academy, and we lost 2 officers, 1 to retirement to another police department, and 1 to another job in the city.
Sorry.
You want to get it? And my last question will be to the committee is for the police department, just if you guys could come up with statistics you're looking for a format for us, I could also join the electronic version. We used to give calls for service and car accidents and things like that. We also provide that in a quarterly report. So whatever you guys are looking for a monthly report from us or a certain format, I'll be more than glad to accommodate that for you. If you have
Absolutely.
any questions,
Sorry, I kind of jumped on the end of
No, go
that,
ahead.
Pat. But I was going to say that that was kind of next on my to-do list, was to meet with you about that. About just a standard report, a data report, and have your meeting report focus on service delivery and so on and so forth. But I wanted to get the fire department reports kind of up and running first. And looks like we're there. So I'll reach out to you and we'll make time when it's convenient for you to sit down and we'll come up with something.
sounds like a plan. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Any questions for the police chief from the committee? Well, it doesn't appear like we have anything. Thank you very much, Pat. So next on our list is emergency management, Chief Montoya.
All right, good evening all. Thank you, sir. Emergency management update. They secured some grant funding while I was away for updates to a secondary EOC, which is currently the training room at fire headquarters. So I'm going to be moving forward with that this month. I've got some quotes from MIS and some outside vendors for some computer drops and phone drops, some wiring needs, and some equipment to outfit the training room as a secondary EOC. Now, the question has been asked what a secondary EOC does. It's not to replace the primary EOC that NPU provides for us, because really, frankly, nothing could do that. We don't have the capacity, nor the manpower, nor the space that they do. So what it would be used for is to augment the primary EOC in the event of a large-scale incident that we outgrew NPU. Or it could be used in a lesser activation of the EOC where we don't need to spin up the full EOC at NPU, but do a modified one for a storm situation or something like that, where there are fewer agencies involved. So that would be the primary role of the secondary EOC. And again, I'll be moving forward with the approval process with DEMIS on the funds that were pre-approved, just allocating those. Second bullet with emergency management, myself and Lieutenant Knaus, before he left, met with the CERT leadership regarding expanding their role and bringing them back in with after COVID. They've been just kind of underutilized over the past year, as we all have, because of the impacts of COVID. There's some things that I'd like to get them more involved with that they were previously doing, and it's a great resource for emergency management. So I look forward to that relationship continuing and even growing. Third bullet under emergency management is and Chief Daly alluded to it, the FEMA mobile vaccination unit. is scheduled to visit Norwich on 5 and 6 May, utilizing the St. Mary's parking lot for a 2-day clinic to kind of help out in the equitable distribution of the vaccine, if you will. They were, as of a couple days ago, scheduled to give the J&J vaccine. They have obviously modified that, and there are some questions that come with that. You know, how will they work the second dose? Whether they go, I believe they're going with Moderna, but scheduling a second dose 4 weeks out is problematic when you're doing a mobile vaccine clinic. So Patrick McCormick is working that issue from Uncas Health. The state is involved with some of the questions, but so we're standing by. I don't know if it'll come to fruition and happen on 5-6 May, but I'm hoping that it does and they work out the issues there because it's probably much needed in our community. So pending any questions, that's all I have for emergency management.
Questions from the committee members? Nothing from the committee, Chief. Thank you very much. Okay, so you'll notice that on the agenda, the next under our department reports is I do have the fire departments listed. And intend to keep this on there, that the email of the emergency reporting PDFs does not or was never intended to remove this report time. What I'd like to use this report time, I know I've said this before, but here we are getting the process up and running. What I'd like to use this time for is for each of you to be able to talk about highlights of what's going on in your firehouses and going on with your people, challenges that you might be facing, you know, issues that or items, both positive and as I said, challenging, that the committee should be aware of. So, you know, we take the data out of the report, out of this report time, and let's focus on people. Let's focus on your department. Let's focus on what's going on, you know, with you, and anything that you believe that we should know. And we'll follow the same batting order that we've been using now for a few months. And we'll start with Norwich Fire.
All right, thank you again. Before I kick off to my report, I probably should have asked this during his report, but I have a question of Eric, if I may.
I'm sorry.
Eric, I'm just curious if the uptick you guys experienced with the COVID coincided with the bringing the operations staff back, or if that was separate from it.
No, it was separate. It was probably about a month after we brought it back. So no, we didn't see the two related.
Thank you. All right, so back to Norwich Fire. So let me ask, since we submitted the reports the way we did this month, if there were any questions from the committee members on the data that was submitted.
I did not have any questions, members.
Okay.
Okay.
For responses for the month, the fire marshals were busy with a number of brush fires that caused property damage. We have also had an uptick in gas calls, as have the surrounding departments. We've been working and communicating with NPU, trying to nail down a source for that uptick. And there really, there isn't anything that we can assign to it. There hasn't been a change in the operating pressure of the system. There hasn't been any changes in the odorant added to the gas or anything like that. No changes in procedures. So we kind of wrote it off to what we do in the service as randomness, because we really can't pinpoint what the cause is. But we've all noticed an increase in gas-related calls. For significant responses for Norwich Fire, we had a house fire on Otis Street, vehicle fire on Stonington Road, and a vehicle into a building on Rockwell Street with severe damage and some serious injuries in that, and then our usual responses. Critical needs, Squad A always remains on the list. As you know, it was cut from the proposed budget. We have submitted an AFG request for that replacement. We did that about 6 weeks ago, I think, when the deadline was. Hopefully, we're keeping our fingers crossed that we'll get some help there, some relief there for both the department and the city. Other critical needs are in line with the discussion on the survey recommendations, the fire study recommendations. The radio surveys have begun to see the holes in the statewide system, if you will, the coverage in Norwich. Tafel was the first to do it. Kudos to Lieutenant Dupuy for that. I was listening to him. I actually monitored it from headquarters. He was doing some walkthroughs of Panema Mills, Bob's Warehouse, and some other areas. So I heard him communicating with dispatch, and I also heard him communicating with a representative from statewide who was calling on a portable from Rocky Hill. So that was good. Laurel Hill also did some testing that I monitored. Chief Westervelt went down to, so hopefully I'm not stealing their thunder, went down to Norwich Hospital, and I talked to him from our electrical room at headquarters with, just like I was talking across the room from a really nice system. So there's still a lot of work to be done in evaluating all of our respective districts, and more importantly, the building communications, what happens when we get inside of a building. Staffing, I'm very pleased to report that I offered the position of Director in Training and Safety to an external candidate. He accepted, and his scheduled start date is 26th of this month. Lieutenant promotion process is in its final stages, and I should be making an announcement on that shortly. So congratulations to all the members that went through that process and made it through into the top 5 and had interviews with me. The 2 recruits at the Fire Academy began their 10th week of the program this week. In reports back from the Academy and the instructors are both candidates are performing exceptionally. Their scheduled graduation is the 26th of May. For facilities, both stations remain closed to the public. We will be starting a parking lot project in May to correct some minor issues, just doing some crack filling and some resealing of the parking lot. Waiting for good weather for that. Training, we have had some outside instructors come in following COVID protocols and precautions. We completed a confined space rescue technician course for, I think there were 15 people in the class total, 12 of them Norwich Fire members who earned their certification as CSR techs. This was through a IFF grant. There is another group scheduled for it. It had to be rescheduled because of some conflict with the instructors. So that new date is the 2nd week in June, I believe. I'm very fortunate that we had 2 big grants for training. Another grant training that we have upcoming is the vehicle rescue training course that begins later on this month, and that will be spread across all 4 platoons. The grant accounted for their staffing expenses as well as the instructor expenses and equipment. So that one came through AFG. Battalion Chief Benjamin completed and passed his certification as fire investigator. So pleased to report that. He just graduated last week. From the COVID-19 front, we actually just today released some updated guidelines for internally departmental guidelines, just to kind of reflect the vaccination rate of the guys, the modifications that CDC and the state has done to their guidelines. We're probably, I'll go out on a limb and say we're probably still a little stricter than most people. But I did modify a few of the aspects of that. And other than that, I am happy for another month to report that we haven't had any known cases beyond the 14 initial ones that we had. So pending any questions, that's my fire report.
Alderman Bettencourt.
Chief, just one question. How are you doing as far as providing fire marshal services, and particularly in relation to the planning department for building services?
Oof, good question. Well, it's I will say that the last, what's the date today, 14th, the last 4 weeks have been challenging because one of the marshals has been out after a medical procedure. So that has put the onus on the other 2 for being on call for the fires across the city, as well as being responsible for picking up inspections and other things. In terms, if you're asking, or if you're looking for information specifically with the building department, they have a very good working relationship with all the inspectors, but we have our challenges. And one of them I'll use as an example here is the residence on Broadway that the owner uses as an event venue, unpermitted.
I'm aware of the situation there.
Yeah.
I think we all are.
Yeah, we worked together on that. We kind of figured out how we could help each other out. And unfortunately, it falls back onto the zoning official. It's very hard for me, nor would I expect my inspectors to go out and certify as something being compliant with the fire code when it shouldn't be there to begin with. So there's a challenge. Captain Roberts and I had a discussion with corporate counsel the other day. And again, not that I'm pushing it off on them, but it falls back to zoning. There are a lot of questions around it. It's a lengthy conversation, but for the point of interdepartmental, intercity department relationships, they rely on us and we rely on them.
I will say that I was, more referring to like your work as far as reviewing of plans and stuff like, that nature. Are we keeping up on the workload? Basically, that's the question.
That's a good question, and I would have to defer to Captain Roberts so I can get back to you on that.
Okay, I'd appreciate it if you would. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bill? Okay. All right, thank you, Tracy. Moving on to Tafel.
Okay. So on the COVID front, we have one member quarantining because he came back from vacation. We have another one that had a possible exposure at his normal job. We're waiting to hear on that, so he is quarantining. Our number still stands as one positive case since all of this began. We're doing pretty good with our PPE. We reopened and resumed training. We had made a switch to online training, which we're going to continue with, but we did reopen the station for in-person training with some very stringent guidelines. And we plan on following the city's lead. It's funny they say May because we had already came up with that date for the reopening for our business meetings and things of that nature. Critical needs, we're working with finance to get the telephone poles removed out of the middle of the parking lot and to get the lights taken down so they can be put back on the basketball court where they belong. We appreciate the extra lighting, but it complicates things as far as parking. That's the big thing that's out there now. We had a little bit of a busy week, a busy month. We had a small fire on the roof of the Panema Mill complex. Luckily, the Norwich Fire Marshal's office has been very stringent with them, and they're working in their hot works permits. They actually, the hot works people actually more or less extinguished the fire prior to us getting there. But that was held in check really, really quick. It wasn't a major fire. It was just in a rough spot, and it was more or less of a smoldering fire. And that was taken care of rather quickly. We've had a little bit of a busy month with gas calls, as Chief Montoya said. And we've had some repeat customers that we had to make social services referrals to see if we can get some better health care for our citizens. Other than that, that's all I have.
Members? Mark, question for the chief?
I'm debating whether I want to ask it. I'll touch base with you directly, Tim, because it's not really a general interest question, and it's more about specifics regarding an EMS call. So I don't want to engage HIPAA. So
I'll help you as much as we can.
I understand the rules. So
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chief. Moving on to Yannick.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Hi, Bill.
So no new COVID exposures. Everything, the membership is healthy right now. We're doing well. We do have one new member. He was in the Marine Corps, so we have high expectations for him. We also lost a member who ended up joining the Marine Corps. So hopefully he fills that member that we lost the boots very well. We are ramping up. We also are starting to ramp up in-person training this month, and towards the end of the month, we will be starting online training through Career Cert in the very near future. I believe PO has to be finished up on that. Our gear extractor has been installed, and we just got to get the membership trained in how to use that properly. And we do have some 800 portables at the station right now. We will start testing this weekend and early into next week.
All right. Members? All right, nothing from the members. Bill, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to Occam. Scott.
Hey, good evening. I know Chief Spalding's also on here, so I don't know if he's going to chime in or not. But
Okay.
in the meantime, I'll kick off. So we haven't had any COVID exposures. We haven't had anybody quarantine in the last month at least. We have seen a decrease in calls over the last couple months. Critical needs, obviously, Engine 41 still remains on that list, being 30 years old this year. That's something that we need to keep focusing on. We did start our in-person training at the beginning of March. We started ramping that back up. We're doing something more along the lines of back to the basics so we can get some of our members, a lot of our new members involved moving forward from there. Otherwise, there's a lot of station work going on that Chief Spalding had mentioned before that we're getting things taken care of around the building with heat, a new bulkhead door. Then we're also doing hose testing and a few other things. We did finalize moving our physicals over to Physician 1, Vice Donna Savardi. So that way it's more streamlined and also more compliant with the NFPA standard. So it's a much easier one-stop shop for our members to go in, get blood work, get their physical, and then we get the clearance letter from there. And then last thing of note is just like everybody else to talk about radios, we do have 2 of the portables from Chief Montoya, and we will be starting that survey moving into the weekend, probably tomorrow or Friday, going all the way through the weekend to figure out where our dead zones are. If anything else, questions from the committee, that's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Members, questions for Scott? And I know, as you said, Chief Spalding likes to dial in. Chief Spalding, if you're still with us, if there's anything you would like to add, floor is yours, sir. Oh, you must be very happy with your report, Scott. Good, great job. Doesn't appear to be any questions from the committee, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up is EGP. Jerry Brandt is filling in for Keith tonight.
Good evening, Councilman, Alderman. Chief Milton is unable to attend tonight. He's attending a OSHA training at the Eastern Connecticut Fire School. East Great Plain responded to 60 incidents last month. As of now, we have no COVID impacts other than what everyone else has because COVID sucks. Several of our members are fully vaccinated, and we are seeing more of our members go and get their shots. We have 2 members attending Firefighter 1 at Eastern Connecticut Fire School. We have resumed in-person training, maximizing outside and this nice weather we've been having, along with social distancing and the wearing of masks. Our station asbestos abatement and renovations continue. The air tests have come back good, so that's good news. And we will also be doing radio surveys in our area in the following weeks.
All right, terrific. Questions from the members? Nothing from the members. Jerry, thank you very much for filling in tonight.
Thank you.
All right, and moving on, Laurel Hill. Is anybody from Laurel Hill here tonight? All right. Phone number I don't recognize, maybe?
They did just go out on a call too, so they may have had to jump off.
Yeah, thank you for that. All right. Okay, so that sums up the reports. That was very informative. Thank you very much for that. And moving on to our next item is item C under new business, 2020 fire study. The item that I have on here is discussion on automatic response recommendations. Now, we all know that in the study, there was a recommendation made, actually a couple of recommendations made in the 1 and 2 priority levels that for reported structure fire that NFD would roll into the into the town, into the TCD or into the volunteer district where the incident was occurring, and that there would be an automatic aid response from from the volunteer departments or from the closest volunteer department into the CCD for the same reason, for a reported structure fire.
Joe, Tim
Yep.
has his hand up. I don't know if you see it.
Yeah, yep. I do. So I just want to just finish my thought on that. So what I would like to do is not just have that discussion here tonight, but as a continuation of discussion, I would like to ask that the city manager and the 6 chiefs get together and start to work on this and come back to the committee with your recommendation or a draft plan on how we can implement this specific thing from the fire study. And with that, Tim, go right ahead.
Sorry about that. So this has absolutely nothing to do with that. I neglected to say Chief Montoya did a really good job with the radio report. This is going to be a very in-depth process. Lieutenant Dupree has produced a very good document as far as how the system works. We've met with the state a couple of times. And I think that really needs to be, our focus really needs to be on the radio system, one major project at a time, so that we're not throwing good money after bad and having to band-aid something else afterwards. The radio system, whether it's simplex, analog, or the digital aspect of it, creates its own problems. There is a workaround for that, but it's going to take a little bit of time to get there. We've been working very closely with all of the chiefs as they all said about their radio testing. But just want to err a caution that, that's not going to be completed in a week or a month or so, because once everybody comes up with their dead spots, then we need to address the rest of the radio system and the build out of that. So I just wanted to keep you in a loop of that. I neglected to, because Tracy did such a good job, I neglected to include that.
Well, thank you for your thoughts on that with the radio system. I'll say that, from where I stand, we cannot take the recommendations of the fire study one at a time and think that we're going to make any meaningful progress on the action items that are in there, at that rate. I believe that we can do more than one thing at a time, and the recommendations about whether it's one engine in, one engine out, or actually, I thought it might be more thoughtful, and there might be more planning that might, I don't know, be part of that. And that's why, I'm asking the 6 of you to get together with the city manager on that, because I see that as an emergent, a serious safety issue. Obviously, the consultant put a high priority number on both of those. One of them was a 1 and one of them was a 2. So I think it's something that we can't wait until we've solved the radio system before we start looking at this or anything else. So that said, I'll open up the floor. I'll shut up and open up the floor for what others might think.
Joe, my only comment and concern again is it almost where the discussions and all the planning needs to take place to follow through with all of this stuff. I just don't want to see the city spend a lot of money on something that in the long run is not going to work because we rush through it. We're switching from a low band to a very complex system. I mean, they don't even call the portable radio anymore. It's now referred to as a subscriber unit. And, we've got to get all of them pieces working. And the CAD working so that the run cards automatically populate and everything else. I think it's a great goal, but again, firefighter safety should be the #1 priority. Dispatch has been identified as in the radio system has been the #1 priority. I think we should be able to focus on that so we can give you guys some numbers of what we're going to need along them lines to be able to for you guys to figure out whether we're going to go for a grant, how we're going to fund it, or anything else like that. I'll shut up now.
Okay, well, you can say whatever you want. You know, you're welcome to it. Well, I guess my question is, what does that have to do with coming up with a plan for, let's call, for lack of another, for any other phrase, one engine in, one engine out?
It doesn't, but you know, if you start changing the run cards so that that automatically happens, now they've already told you that there are different means of looking it up, whether it's a PDF, a Word document, or something like that. All of them would have to be changed so that they reflect for each department to get the piece that they want. Whether it's engine 2, engine 3, the squad A, however that all of that's going to work. All of that stuff comes into play. And if dispatch, you know, dispatch is going to have to be able to have that information readily available at their fingertips. And has already been identified in the study, they don't have it there now.
So it resembles a note. I didn't know who to call.
Okay, so we've heard from Tim, and anyone else like to weigh in on that? Chief Montoya, I saw that you do physically raise your hand. Go right ahead.
Easier than hitting the button. I think that's a good conversation, but we need to involve dispatch so they can tell us what they can or cannot process in a, you know, easy fashion without changing the CAD or doing anything else. Certainly, I think everyone will acknowledge that we need to make some adjustments. It's just a matter of doing so in a productive way, and we can't have that discussion without dispatch at the table.
Okay. Mark Betancourt, go ahead.
If I may, as someone that's in the dispatch business, you know, I'm kind of in agreement on this, because that is really a huge element of this whole thing. And I think, you know, we start talking about, you know, the locations and what's the closest unit and stuff like that, which means you got to go through all the run cards again and stuff. And it's going to be part and parcel of that dispatch, you know, upgrade, to be honest with you. That's really where it needs to be at. So, because they're the ones that are going to be sending them. So that's just that one piece that, you know, it's a very complex piece actually when you start, you know, taking it apart. And in this case, it's, you know, it's nothing I think you can run into, because what's going to happen is, so at first you can come up with a plan, and then it's going to take you, you know, God knows how long to implement it and how much money, you know. So the fact of the matter is the plan they come up with is going to be, you know, will need to be incorporated in the dispatch rollout anyway of that project.
So then I guess the question is then, do we just, you know, when I say we, all of us, right, just address the priority one recommendation on this particular topic, which was that NFD automatically rolls an engine on a reported structure fire, regardless of where it is in the city of Norwich. And maybe that's the conversation that the 6 chiefs should have, and the person who's going to be the member of that group from dispatch having that conversation, right? On the one hand, I do agree with what Tim and Mark have said, that, you know, we don't want to do this twice, right? We don't want to be shuffling the deck once and then having to shuffle it again, right? But I will tell you, I have concerns when I read in the study that the consultant put such a high priority on that one aspect. You know, it was during the presentation that it evolved into this conversation about one engine in, one engine out, and I started to have concerns about that, because like, okay, how does every single call automatically know that it needs an engine, right? That the next piece is the engine, that is an engine that needs to roll. And again, that's why I'm really I'm saying that this really should go back to the Fire Chiefs Council, as I like to call them, right? And the city manager, and an element from, you know, a person from with some authority from dispatch is a great idea. But again, so if looking at looking at one engine in, one engine out, and retones and all kinds of other things is too much of a bite of the apple all at once. I guess I could on a couple of levels agree with that. But then what about the number one priority, right? What about or I should say the priority one that was identified? Why can't the chiefs have that conversation?
I mean, I agree that this should happen, to me anyway. I believe it's the right thing to do. But I'm just concerned with the implementation of it, so I just want to because I don't, any way you cut it, dispatch is involved. And, we're talking about a huge dispatch project right now. And I think, and that's going to need to be incorporated into that. That's really my point in this.
Joe, I think that there's room for the conversation to be had to start that conversation to start moving towards that goal when the chiefs meet with the city manager. I absolutely agree that we should start having them conversations now, along with several others.
Okay, so is it now, so my next question would be, is it realistic? Because I know that you guys all have a lot on your plates. Is it realistic to ask you guys to meet at least once on this one pared down topic before our next meeting, and then we talk about this again at our May meeting? Because this again, this is a discussion item, that's why I felt that it was best to start here as us talking about it. But then is it realistic to ask you guys as a group to to talk about that specifically before our next meeting, and then we hear back from you at the May public safety meeting? Yeah, Tim, go ahead.
I don't think it's an unrealistic goal. I think once we meet with John and set an agenda and some ground rules that for our meetings, whether they're an hour long or who brings what or however it's going to work. I don't think I think it's a viable goal. We haven't had a meeting with him yet, so I caution you that something else of a priority might come up in our first meeting when we do get one scheduled with him. That's the only caution that I have. So I wouldn't want you to, in my opinion, we should start to broach the subject. That's my opinion alone. But I think that, either John has other questions or there are other concerns when we finally get to meet with John. So it might take a month or two, but at least you would have a report of the discussion that was had with the city manager.
Right. So your point is well taken, Tim, right? That, we're just now, starting to talk about, okay, how about the 6 chiefs and the city manager meeting on a monthly basis, right? Now, I would think that we don't need a resolution from us to make you guys do that. It just needs to be a decision, right? As a group to sit down and find a mutual time that works for everybody, and you meet once a month, right? So so we say we're going to start there, right? Is that's a feasible thing without having to be action by the council, right? Or we could just ask for that and have it start to happen.
I agree wholeheartedly. When we were meeting with acting city manager Bilda, we were able to accomplish leaps and bounds of things. We had everything from tabletop exercises to the current iPad system that we all use thanks to NPU and the GIS system. I think there's a lot of merit in meeting with the city manager for an hour, 2 hours, whatever the ground rules are set up for. And I welcome the opportunity to go back to them type of meetings. I think we can accomplish a lot more when we're doing stuff like that.
All right. How about the rest of the fire chiefs? So, how do you guys feel about that idea? I see a couple thumbs up. Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, again, because this is starting as this is starting at the discussion level, right? This is not something that's got a deadline, right? So on the specific item that I put on tonight's agenda to get the conversation going, to Tim's point, if it's not the most important thing that needs to be talked about at the first Chiefs Council meeting, right? Then, all right, then we don't have anything new to discuss on this topic next month. And maybe it's June's meeting where we end up talking about it because you guys have had an opportunity in a meeting to talk about it. That's great. Bill, I see you have your hand up. Go
And
ahead.
the only thing I wanted to say is, as far as the meetings go, listen, we know that dispatch is one of the priorities right now because we've been talking about it for 14 years, that the dispatch needs to be fixed, the dispatch needs to be updated, dispatch needs to be this so we can get on it. But all these discussions that they're going to have with John, they should be all planning, what is it that we need from the dispatch? It's not just, are we going to build this beautiful $600,000, $1 million, $2 million dispatch center, and it's going to be pretty and shiny and have all kinds of gadgets and jigamabobs and figamajigs, but what are we going to put in it? What's the purpose? So all this stuff that they do now is the stuff that we're going to take and input it into the dispatch. So when they talk about run cards, we talk about in, out, one there, whatever the situation is, okay? This is what needs to be kind of like, I talk about being a football coach, and when I get ready to go, I have a script, and I know what plays work in what area of the field, and what are my bread and butter plays, and what defense. It's a script. I have a whole script in front of me that I can go to. That's all on my computer. You know what I'm saying? So when I look at my stats and I know what I have, so this is what we're asking these chiefs to do. Sit down with the city manager and come together with a plan so that when the dispatch is done and all the fun stuff is in there, that all it takes is someone sitting at, well, I know it's going to take more than that. I'm simplifying it, is someone sitting down and inputting it all. So when a fire comes in, whether it's 21 Shoals Avenue, the dispatcher puts in fire at Shoals Avenue, it's in Yantic, and this is what needs to go. Because this is what the fire chiefs say. If it's a structure fire, call these people. If it's a medical call these people. If it's a car accident, call these people. That should come up on today's computer systems. I cannot believe that won't show up and that can't be inputted. And it's easy enough to correct later on when someone says, Yantic comes back and says, you know what, we don't need that the next time. Okay, so someone goes in, adjusts it, amends the program so that whatever truck Yantic wants at that scene, or Taft-Hill or Laurel Hill or Fire Central, then they can just plug it in. They just take out the old one, put the new one in, and it's easy. But if they don't have that ahead of time, that game plan ahead of time, when we get this new fancy dispatch center, and then someone says, this is what we want to do, and someone else turns around and goes, oh, well, we never thought of that, so we don't have that in there. Then we just wasted time. And I don't want to waste anyone's time. This is a chance for us to strike while the match is hot and get in there and do the right stuff. So please, I'm begging you guys, get with the city manager, sit down and try to think of everything none of us else think of. Think of things that even you don't think of. There's 6 of you. Each one of you got the answer. And the 6 of you together, I'll challenge anybody to tell me that we don't have the right answer. But you need to work together. And John, you need to lead that charge. Okay, that needs to be you. You need to come in there in that meeting, and it's your meeting, John, and you need to sit down with them and get them and pick the crap out of their brains, challenge the hell out of them and get them to do what we need to have done. That's all I got to say about it. But this is the time. This is the time now to do it.
All right, thank you for that. Jerry Verant, you were going to say something, and we had kind of 2 people talking at the same time, but I wanted to get back to you.
I was just saying, we're on board with the monthly meetings for chiefs and with the city manager.
Okay, all right, Scott.
So I will jump in with what Timmy was saying. We have met a couple times. The first meeting was, what were the top 3 priorities out of the fire service study? What were the 3 low-hanging things that aren't necessarily the most important stuff? Then we followed up because we really wanted to focus on dispatch. So we started focusing on radio systems as well. And to add with what Bill was saying, we already started a conversation. We just haven't met in person yet to discuss what are all the things that we want to go with this. What is the interconnectivity with the radios to the CAD system, to our run cards, to what information gets pushed out to us? Can I pick up my phone and use eDispatch to pull up my pre-plan and have all the information at my fingertips if I was trying to figure it out from memory? This is all stuff that we have started figuring out. So that way we don't have a dispatch center that's just for 2021. It's a dispatch center for 2030, 2040 that we can continue to upgrade. So we're getting there. We just need to have a few more meetings and jump in on it.
Yeah, well, and you know that you make a good point. Absolutely right. You know that I know I've heard that the conversations have started to happen, but and the next part, the next evolution is of that is the want to call them official meetings, right? You know, where I say official, meaning that it's a regularly scheduled meeting. It happens once a month, like clockwork. There's an agenda, and and there's a focus, there's a vision, for how are the 6 chiefs and the city manager, going to implement, these things that were, or how best can we implement the things that were recommended by the consultant, because I think part of Bill's point is that there's a solution out there. It may, the study wasn't completely prescriptive in saying this is exactly how you have to do it, otherwise it won't work, right? It's you guys are going to figure out how to make those recommendations work because of the uniqueness of what we've got going on here. Okay. So it looks to me like we've got a couple of things on that Chiefs Council agenda. I saw John nod in agreement when Bill was talking about, about moving the meetings forward, right? So on the specific topic about dispatch and automatic response and so on and so forth, is there anything else anybody would like to add? Oh, okay. Thank you for that discussion. I think that this is productive. I know that we're finding our way, we're kind of feeling our way through this, right? But but we're getting there, all right? And at least we're talking, right? That's the thing. At least the conversations are happening, and I'm very happy about that. So if there's nothing else on this topic, and it doesn't appear that there is, we'll move on to item number 6, which is public safety items for future discussion. I already mentioned earlier in response to Alderman Bettencourt about budget feedback. I'll leave that on there for next month's meeting. Is there anything else that you guys have that you would like me to put on the agenda so that we can talk about it? And that's not just directed at the other committee members, that's all of the stakeholders in this meeting. Okay, and it wasn't a pop quiz. If you think of something, you can just email me. I'll be happy to add it, all right, to the agenda. And that's always true. I know, I'll probably say it every meeting, but I don't have to say it, right? Feel free to email me with items that you would like me to put on the agenda. It doesn't all have to come from us or from me, okay? This is not my agenda. This is our agenda. So don't ever hesitate to ask me to add something to the agenda. And with that,
If I may, Joe, real quick.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Chief.
Let me just, because one of the chiefs, I apologize, I don't remember which, mentioned physicals. We're planning for our physicals, and I'll share this with you guys. We do ours through Yale New Haven Health Occupational Health Department. And I was approached a couple years ago by the guys about expanding the scope of our physicals to include some screenings for fire specific, cancers and other things. So I talked to Yale New Haven Health about it to see what was feasible within my budget, as well as the parameters of the physicals. And we're going to add some colon cancer screenings and PSAs for members that either, fall under the NFPA recommended age, which is 40 plus, or maybe have a family history of it. The cost really wasn't crazy. So if you haven't started your physicals, it may be something you want to look into for the wellness of your members. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so item number 7, our next meeting is scheduled for May 12th, 2021. I got the year right this time, right? The agenda says via Zoom unless otherwise located. So the city manager and I have already had a couple of conversations about returning to in-person meetings for this committee and for selected other committees as things start to loosen up here a little bit. So if we can work that out and we transition to an in-person meeting for the May meeting, I will let everybody know well in advance. And with that, unless there's any comment from the committee, doesn't appear to be any, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Alderman Nash,
Second,
seconded by Alderman Bettencourt. All those in favor?
Aye.
It is
Yes.
unanimous. We are adjourned
Good night,
at
gentlemen.
8:11 p.m. Thank you all very much. And be safe and have a good month. I'll see you all soon.
Hey, have a good night, all.
You too. Thank you.